Hey, Dan. Where's my hand? There it is.
There we go.
Oh my God. Another beautiful afternoon in Snohomish County, Snohomish, Washington, actually. What is it, like 70 degrees out, Dan, and sunny with a couple of floating clouds here and there.
Yep, that's about the size of
it. Nice little breeze.
Yep. Well, I'll tell you what. Let's jump into it because we got a lot to cover today.
We do. We have some stuff to cover.
We do. So I'll tell you what. Why don't we start off with the Seattle area real estate stats that are hot off the press? Off the press.
Off the presses, guys. Here we go. Local stats, Western Washington. Okay. So first, I'd like to mention that I submitted an article for the Woodinville Weekly magazine. It comes out a couple times a year in Woodinville. It's available at a lot of venues for free, and then they have a subscribership, right? So they have people that subscribe to their magazine. So what I did was for the article is I broke down the statistics for Woodinville only. So just the town of Woodinville. And so it was pretty amazing, actually. It departs a bit from King County in that over the past 5 years, it has appreciated, 64% is what Woodinville has had an appreciation in the last 5 years. So King County in general is just 43%, but Woodinville has had significant appreciation over King County in general. So that was one thing. A couple of the other things I want to mention is Woodinville has 1.6 months supply of inventory, and that is a bit higher than most of King County. So, and let's see, because most of King County is 1.1. Is that right? King County 1.2. We're up to 1.2 King County. So 1.6 months supply of inventory for the city of Woodinville. So the homes will start sitting on the market a little bit longer, but 37% of sellers set offer review dates. So sellers are still feeling fairly confident in Woodinville. They'll receive multiple offers if they set an offer review date. 44% of sellers got under contract within the first 7 days on the market. So really a good, strong market there. 59% of sellers got under contract within 14 days. So again, more than half within the first 14 days on the market. So the other thing I wanted to mention for Woodinville is this average sales price has gone up 17% since the first of the year. So that's pretty good, making up for some losses last year. Quite the nice little rebound, Woodinville.
Yes, it is.
So that was the first thing I wanted to mention. So if you guys happen to see the Woodinville Weekly magazine laying around somewhere, grab it, read my article. I hope you like it. Okay, so let's see. King County, 1.2 months supply of inventory. 44% of sellers set offer review dates. So King County in general feeling quite confident about the market right now. 44% of sellers got under contract within the first 7 days on the market. 47% got under contract within the first 14 days on the market. So King County, you have to get sold that first 7 days, right? So staging, pre-inspected,
windows,
shiny windows, pretty driveways and landscaping and, staging. Did I say staging? Staging. So first 7 days is really important because things slow down a lot the second week, a lot. Right. So actually, let's see, but yeah. Did I say 50? Yeah, it was 55% of homes got under contract within 14 days. Yeah. Let's see. And
that's kind of interesting because the first 7 days you got 47% in King County.
Yes.
And that's week one.
And only 7% more that second week. So you really do, as a seller, have to be cognizant of the fact that most of the homes that are going to get sold within the first 14 days do so within that first 7-day window. So really, really, really important.
Yeah.
So the other thing I want to mention about King County and all the other counties that we're talking about today is it has appreciated 17%. Oh, I'm sorry, 19%. The sales prices have appreciated in King County 19% since the first of the year. So pretty good, pretty strong growth.
Yeah, definitely.
So yeah, so King County is clicking along, and that includes a wide area. So Seattle, Renton, up to
North Bend.
out to North Bend, exactly. Yep, including Woodinville, Bothell. So pretty big county, one of the biggest, more populous counties in the state of Washington. If not the most, I think it's the most populous county. That would make sense. I'm taking a guess at that one, folks, but I think that's a pretty good guess. Okay, Snohomish County has 0.9 months supply of inventory, and they've been hanging at 0.9 months for quite some time. They are the strongest sellers market in Western Washington. So it's incredible, actually. 43, what is it? So 43% of sellers in Snohomish County set offer review dates. Again, they're feeling fairly confident, and with good reason. 47% of sellers went under contract within the first 7 days. So that's a big number. That's still a big number, right? That's almost half in the first week. That's really a big number. Yep. 57% of sellers went under contract within the first 14 days. So about 10% more the second week. So it's not as dastardly if you don't get under contract the first 7, but still the majority of the people that get under contract within the first 2 weeks, it happens in that first 7 days. So, if I were a seller or a listing agent, I would start to get a little nervous the second week. So you don't want to do any price adjustments unless you went too high, right? So if you overshot it and you're getting that feedback, then you want to think about lowering price. But I'm not a person who goes crazy about lowering prices within the first couple of weeks. Just because some houses are more stylized and they may require or have an unusual floor plan, and they may require a special buyer. So not every house is built for everyone. So right. So anyway, so there's that. Let's see. And Snohomish County has gone up 13% since the first of the year for the average sales price. So they're doing quite well as well. King County's beating them at this point. So, okay, I gotta wet my whistle.
Well, they're beating them in maybe the returns, but I'll tell you what, Snohomish doing awfully good on that month's supply. It's awfully tight, isn't it?
It is really tight, and I have a buyer that I've been trying to get into a place since the first of the year. It's too bad we weren't able to do it the first of the year because prices are up quite a bit from then. So, but the competition's, it's ridiculous. And I showed him this last weekend, and he goes, "Oh, the market's really gone down, Kat." I was like, "Oh, really, Frank?" Because that's not what I'm seeing.
Which market was that?
Okay. I'm like, what is he talking about? The market has not slowed down. The tenor that, some of the numbers have softened somewhat since April, May. Mm-hmm. But it's kind of stabilized now, in the middle of the summer here. So we're just kind of a few numbers going back and forth. It's just, we're really staying fairly moderate here. So it's still a very, very strong seller's market. And like I said, most sellers are going to get under contract. Well, shoot, you got over half of them getting under contract within the first 14 days on the market. So that's pretty incredible.
So
let's see.
How do things normally shake out this time of year? Like, what's today, the 8th?
Well, so, in a normal year, we usually see a lot of inventory right now. Really. Okay. We usually have more inventory than we have buyers, and things start to slow down middle of July through August and through September. And eventually, most of the inventory gets chewed up by October. But there's still some lingering through Thanksgiving and Christmas, at which point people are picking them up for a pretty good value. And then January comes around, all bets are off. It's off to the races.
Yes.
for the real estate market. So, don't wait till the first of the year, guys. Jump in November, December. That's your buying opportunity. Not that you have anything to pick from, but that's your buying opportunity. That's your tip from your favorite Snohomish County realtor. So, okay, so let's move on. So I've got 3 more counties to do here, because today we're going to do Pierce, can't see, Mason, and Skagit. So we're going to include those today for all you folks joining us in those counties. So Pierce County has 1.1 month supply of inventory. So really maintaining. That's a very constant number for Pierce County for quite some time now. 28% of sellers set offer reduce offset. Let me start off with that. Hold on. Water. 28% of sellers in Pierce County set offer review dates. So those sellers in Pierce County are not feeling as confident as those in King and Snohomish counties. And, it's interesting because 30% of sellers did get under contract in the first 7 days on the market. So the number of offer review dates is slightly less than the number that are getting under contract that first week. My feeling is still, if you have a home that is going to appeal to most buyers, like a Rambler, a Daylight Rambler, or you have, the 4 bedrooms and the 3 bathrooms, or split level that has, 2 levels that could be separate living, 2 kitchens or something. I mean, that's going to appeal to most people. And I think you should be setting an offer review date if you're in really good condition. If you're not, then, there's probably no point. But,
Right.
One extra offer can make a big difference for a seller, even if it's just picking between 2 different kinds of financing or how much they're putting down or closing date, right? Sometimes closing dates are very important. So Pierce County 40, but this is the kicker, and this is why I say set an offer review date. I mean, this is the data that goes another week. So within 14 days of going on the market, 48% of sellers got under contract. So the market is very active in Pierce County after that first 7 days, with almost half of sellers getting under contract. So it's still a really strong sellers market in Pierce County. Buyers just aren't jumping as quickly in Pierce. They're feeling like maybe they've got a little more time to make a decision. And
they kind of do, right? I mean,
yeah, and they do to a degree. Yeah, they literally have another 7 days. So, as opposed to King and Snohomish. Oh my God. So Pierce County's gone up 11% since the first of the year. So not bad growth.
Pretty good.
Good appreciation. So I start smacking my mouth when I'm thirsty, so hold on. I got to get my whistle wetted. Guys, it's 70 degrees here and I'm sweating. And I'm sitting in the shade. Oh my God. So anyway, okay, let's move on to Mason County.
This is the one I've been waiting for all day, Mason County.
Okay. I got it for you. Hey, Dan, I got Mason County for you.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Yes, let's go to Mason County here.
Okay, let's go to Mason County. Here we go. 1.9 months supply of inventory in Mason County, so a little bit higher. Now, you have to remember their data pool is smaller. So the numbers in Mason County and Skagit County, they're a lot smaller data pool. So their market, although the numbers I'm going to tell you sound like it's not as hot of a market, it's still, they can fluctuate a lot more wildly because their data set is so small.
Right.
They'll sell like 15 houses in 2 weeks or something. Yeah, it's just not a lot. So the data set's really small. But they did, so they have 38% of their sellers setting offer review dates. So they're kind of on point there. With only 32% of sellers got under contract within the first 7 days, though. So,
but it's that second 7 days from
Yeah, wait till you hear this one. Now, this is going to be this is what I'm talking about. The numbers can get skewed when you're dealing with a smaller data set. So 32% went under contract within the first 7 days on the market. Only 33% got under market the first 14 days on the market. So that looks like only 1% more. See, that's where really, does the market just die after 7 days?
that is the doorknob. 7
So
days.
if I have a listing in Skagit County, we're getting you sold within the first week.
Let me tell
That
you,
would be vital.
if you are in Mason County and not staging your homes and
Mason County, yes.
yes, and not wiping down the windowsills, you're nuts. You gotta be wiping down the windowsills. You gotta clean the windows.
You have to have
You
the
gotta stage.
windowsills, Dan. You have to have the tracks cleaned.
Gotta have the tracks cleaned. I mean, those are must do's. You gotta do those things, especially if you live in Mason County. If you live in King County, Woodinville, Snohomish,
no, got to do it. You still have to do it, Dan. You're not going to get me to change my mind on that.
You got to do it, but
even if it's new construction, Dan, even if it's new construction, it has to be done because there's, the final dust and stuff around the plat, winds up getting in the windowsills, and it still has to be done.
Yes.
Unless the buyer just, maybe the buyer doesn't care, or the builder doesn't care, or it's in construction when they sell it, it's still under construction, then obviously no. But if it's a completed new construction, then, you got to send cleaners in there and they've got to spruce it up for the builder. So.
Yeah. Well, this leads us to what I think is the sleeper county of the state. For whatever reason.
Mason County?
Skagit. Let's go to Skagit.
Oh, well, no, I haven't finished. Mason. Don't you want my rest of my data?
Sorry about that. Yes, I'm sorry about that.
I'm feeling rushed.
Sorry about that. Well, I'm so excited about Skagit. Skagit is, anyway.
I get it. Okay. So Mason County, so this again, I'm pointing out the data points are so small. There's such a small group that it skews things. So the data shows that the average sales price went down 1% this year since January. It could be. It could actually be, but I didn't really look at housing prices real closely to see if that correlated. But it is it is the average. So you could also think in your own mind that maybe when people are maybe buying a lesser expensive home this year because home prices went up so much.
If somebody,
you know what I mean? There are could be other contributing factors to that. Because we're dealing with such a small data pool,
right?
So I'm not sure they actually went down 1%, but that's what the average sales price shows.
I just thought of a really good tagline for Mason County.
Oh yeah,
yeah, it's Mason County, where every house is an outlier. So anyway, let's move along.
Okay.
Sorry.
Skagit County.
What can I say?
Let's visit Skagit County. Should we?
But I'm pumped. It just flows. What can I say? Go ahead.
I've got clients in Anacortes, so I like to include Skagit County when I can. So Skagit County, 1.4 months supply of inventory. So not too bad. 44% of sellers in Skagit County are setting offer review dates. So very confident that they're going to get under contract. 43% of sellers got under contract within the first 7 days on the market. And 45% of sellers got under contract within the first 14 days on the market. So here we go again with only a couple percent more that second week. So again, we're dealing with a smaller data set. So I'm not 100% sure that that's going to be true across the board. But it certainly was this past last time I pulled data, which was just yesterday. so we'll have to keep an eye on those numbers for Skagit and Mason as far as that second week, because it looks pretty crappy for both areas. Hopefully that's not true. I know their days on market are a bit higher than ours down here in the the more suburban areas. Seattle and Everett and.
Skagit, though, I think Skagit, it's got some maybe I'm wrong, could be wrong, but I think there's some opportunity for growth there in Skagit County. It's pretty good value. You're down 10% right now, but I think
Well,
there is.
yeah. Oh, yeah. You're looking ahead. Yeah, they are. Skagit County is down. Skagit County's average sales price is down 10% for the year so far. And again, I'm dealing with such a small data set. I'm not 100% sure that's going to be accurate. It could have been skewed by a few low sales or, homes in poor condition. So we'll have to keep an eye on that and see where that number takes us. But right now, it looks like it's down 10%. I find that hard to believe because I actually have a client staying in Mount Vernon in an Airbnb, and we're trying to find them a property. Now, they are the ones that are really particular. It has to be a rambler or a daylight rambler. They want a little bit of land, and they want a view, and they want to keep it under 800. So
It could happen.
all I could find them was the two little gray houses, with a sweeping water view on Camino.
Wow.
But the biggest house was 1,300 square feet on there, even though they both have 2-car garages, and amazing views. But, and they could rent out one of them, which would actually offset their mortgage. The amount they would think about borrowing would actually be offset 100% renting out that second house. But I just don't think it's enough room for them. 1,300 square feet. That's, because they had a house that was about 2,200 square feet, I think. 2,200 square feet, essentially a 4-bedroom with 2 family rooms. So I think 1,300, I don't think they can imagine unloading their storage lockers and putting their furniture back at a home and trying to get it into 1,300 square feet. I don't think they can imagine that. So I think it's a little tough on them.
George Carlin had a good bit about you have to move your stuff. You've got to be able to move your stuff. And there's a lot of truth in what George Carlin says, Anyway, that's about it.
So I'm not sure if I mentioned that. I think I did. That Woodinville went up 64% in average sales price. I did mention that. Okay. Yes, I just want to make sure I got that in there.
So, well, let's move on to the next slide. Or unless you want to talk more.
We gotta wait a second. We gotta do an outfit change. Okay.
Okay. Well, let's stop.
We're gonna spruce it up a little bit.
We're gonna go on pause.
We're gonna spruce it up. Jeez, get it off of there. Okay, here we go.
We got going on here. Let's see. We got the out. Oh my goodness. Oh, rocking the blazer today. Oh,
rocking the blazer. It's like a man's blazer. It's just so cool.
Oh, looks great.
Matching skirt.
Oh,
loving this. Oh. I remember wearing these when I lived in Santa Cruz, and I would wear them with shorts. These old men's suit jackets. Oh my God, I loved it.
that is so Santa Cruz.
It is a little Santa Cruz-y,
Yeah,
I love it. So anyway, so what do you want to talk about today, Dan?
Okay. So
I got a couple more things. I got a couple more things on my docket. You want to know what they are?
Yeah.
I gotta bait you. I'm gonna talk about later after you get done. What do inspectors look for when they're conducting an inspection for a buyer? So we're gonna talk a little bit about what items inspectors might be looking for. So that's always fun because it motivates people to go ahead and have that inspection one way or the other.
Sure, you don't want to talk about it now because I may put all the viewers to sleep and you'll never be able to wake them up.
Am I going to lose you guys if I turn you guys over to Dan?
You might.
Give me some feedback out there. So hey, and the other thing we're going to do is we're going to talk about the different types of inspections because I want you guys to understand the different types of inspections you can have. So as a buyer,
let's talk inspections first.
Okay, all right. Well, let's first talk about the types of inspections. So as a buyer, as I just went over with all these different areas, a good percentage of sellers, dang it, I can't talk. In most areas in Western Washington, a good percentage of sellers are actually setting offer review dates. And so usually you list on a Thursday. If you're a good listing agent, a good listing broker, generally you'll list on a Thursday. If everything goes perfectly, you can get the photography and the videos and stuff done in time to actually get on the market by Thursday. If not, you might be kicked back to Friday. It's usually a scheduling issue there. But we like, most of us like to list on a Thursday. And then we review offers the following Monday or Tuesday, with Tuesday being the optimum day for the seller to get the most money. Statistically, they've shown that the seller will get the most money from the property if the review is on Tuesday. So not Monday, not Wednesday, but Tuesday. So that's a good thing for you guys to know. The other thing is that when you go to look at homes, try to see them early. Don't wait for the weekend, right? So you want to get in there maybe Thursday or Friday if they're on the market, or early Saturday morning, so that if the seller has not provided an inspection, you can go ahead and have your own inspection if the seller will allow you to, prior to submitting your offer on the offer review date. So that gives you Sunday and Monday potentially to get an inspection, or even maybe Tuesday morning. So, and there's a couple different types of inspections you can get. So you can actually get a walkthrough inspection, and those are typically going to run $250, $300, $350, and those come with photos but no written report. So the inspector, and they're fairly quick, but the inspector does go in all the areas. They go in the attic, they go in the crawl space, and they check all the things that we're going to talk about in just a minute. But it's just a walkthrough, and then they'll send you all the photos, and they'll give you the summary while we're still there. So that's how that works. And you can even call and ask them questions later. In most cases, the other kind of inspection that you can have is a full inspection. So before you make your offer, you can hire an inspector, and they'll put together a full written report for you and usually get that over to you that evening or the very next morning. So those are the two kinds of inspections that a buyer can have prior to submitting an offer.
So if you really like the house, I'm just hypothetically, if you like the house, you're pretty certain you're going to put an offer in on it. You wanted to maybe waive a contingency, maybe waive the inspection or something like that. What you say, maybe just do the full inspection ahead of time, and then you can waive the contingency afterward because you already have the information. Is that about it?
So the point, there's a couple reasons to go ahead and have the inspection. One of them is sellers do not like inspection contingencies because they are get out of jail free cards for buyers. You can walk for any reason in Washington State and get your earnest money back. You can walk. So buyers can walk. Sellers do not like inspection contingencies. So they either want to give you an inspection, from an inspection they've had done themselves, or they would want you to have your inspection done before you make your offer, so that you can make your offer without an inspection contingency. That's going to carry a lot more weight with the seller than if you submitted a higher offer with an inspection contingency, because it's hard to take those seriously when you're a listing broker. And somebody can just walk away, and you've got other offers that don't have an inspection contingency in there. So very important for you to be aware of, and you absolutely have to have an inspection in my mind.
Right.
Other agents don't make you, but if you're my client, you have an inspection. Just saying,
Well, that makes sense.
Unless there's a compelling reason why you don't feel like you need one. So, I have had a few clients go ahead and purchase without getting an inspection, and they convinced me that they could do the inspection themselves. I let them do it, and I'm not sure if the inspector would have found some of the issues that did come up, but maybe. And then the other time, it was a fairly new house, and we didn't have any time to get it done, and they weren't going to accept an offer with an inspection contingency. And I said, you have to have the inspection done then immediately when you move in, or the day after we close. And they did. They had an inspection that weekend. So, right. And it turned out great. So thankfully it turned out great. So, but no, if you're my client and you're writing an offer in this market, I would encourage you to get a pre-inspection if for some reason the seller has not had an inspection done themselves. So then there's the seller inspection, which they would have that completed prior to listing the property. And if they're really being smart about it, they're going to have that done about 2 to 3 weeks before they go on the market, because they're going to want to know all the things that are wrong with the home that could potentially cause a problem for buyers submitting offers. So, or for a buyer, that would put off a buyer. So roof leaks, plumbing leaks, you want to catch that stuff. And you want to be so as a seller, you want to be in control of having those items repaired, you want to be in charge of that. You don't want to put the buyer in charge of that, or you don't want that buyer to go out and start getting bids.
Real quick question on this. So you do. Let's say you're listing the house, all right, and you get the inspection done 2-3 weeks before you're going to list it, right? And then you see the inspection report and say, there's a few things that maybe need a little attention, right?
Mhm.
And Windermere has that special financing program that you can do, right? And you can fix up your place, kind of put it on Windermere's tab in a sense, and then pay it all off when you sell the house. Do I understand that correctly?
Yeah. So there's a program. It's a wonderful program. It's called the Windermere Ready program. So not everybody has a bunch of cash laying around when they go to sell their house or when they need to sell it. Sometimes it's an estate sale, and there's just nobody has any money to put into the place to fix it up, to get it ready for sale. The Windermere Ready program, you can borrow up to $100,000, and it's equity based. So you do not need to disclose financial information. You just need, or I'm sorry, you don't have to have a job, right? So you don't have to. It doesn't matter whether you're working or not working. It's just based on your equity. So and they get an estimate from your broker, me, as to what the value of the house is, and they take our word for that, of course. And then it's just a short 3-page, real quick application. And it's usually approved the same day. So if you get it submitted and they actually get a chance to take a look at it that day, there's a good chance it'll be approved in that one day. And then the funds get released fairly quickly. So, and they, you don't have to provide receipts, documentation, anything like that for the repairs that are going to be done. That's completely up to you how you use that money. It's 11.75% daily fee that's accrued. And it's a 2% origination fee. So if you borrow like $40,000, in about 90 days, your cost will be roughly $2,000. It's just not much more. It's not much more than that. So most people actually only use it 70 to 90 days. That would be your average person using that Windermere Ready program. And you don't have to make any payments either. So it gets paid off at escrow. Nice. So super easy to do, very inexpensive way to get your hands on a little bit of extra cash if you need to spruce your place up, so that your return on your investment is going to be great if you're doing the right thing. So you always want to talk to your Windermere real estate broker, me, before you start making changes to your home. I want to get in it first, because I don't want you doing things that aren't going to make a substantial difference in the sale of your home. So always talk to your broker first before you start spending that money, and to make sure it goes to the right projects. So, a lot of times, maybe you might need a roof. Well, roof is very important. If you got 5 years left on it, it's not as big a deal, right? So at least if you got at least 5 years, if it looks like if it's got patches and stuff, better change it. Good idea to change it. So, and exterior paint, if it hadn't been painted in the last couple of years, probably could use a coat on the outside. And then the interior, a new coat of fresh white paint on the ceilings and walls makes a house look clean and modern. So right now we're back to white again, and I got to tell you, I couldn't be happier, because that's easy.
There's one.
For years I was having to pick paint colors. Everybody call me and ask for my advice, and I'm like, and I'm good at it, but I'd rather not. I'd rather just say, hey, there's this great Benjamin Moore color. It's called Chantilly Lace, and it's amazing. So anyway, love Benjamin Moore, love Chantilly Lace. I've used that in a bunch of listings, and it's always been magical. So I don't think any of those listings ever sat on the market for more than maybe 2 weeks.
I was just thinking, maybe we could get an introduction, and we'll have the Big Bopper singing Chantilly Lane instead of Chantilly Lane.
So let's see. And so back to the types of inspections, right? So there's the seller inspection that you get, that the seller has completed prior to going on the market. And the goal of that is then to be able to correct the few items that need correcting, update the inspection report, so that's reflected in there, take the photos, documenting photos, etc. And the seller always wants to make sure places fairly neat and tidy when that inspection occurs, because there's going to be a lot of photos taken by the inspector and want that reflected positively to the buyer. But the other thing is that then the seller can turn around and give that inspection report to potential buyers. And that's important, because then buyers get to see the condition of the home before they make their offer. And then they can come in, hopefully comfortable, without using an inspection contingency. So it's a beautiful thing. It really is. A seller have an inspection done in almost every case prior to going on the market. It's state sales, that can be a little bit trickier, because you don't have to have a form. You don't have to disclose on a Form 17 in a lot of cases, and but if you don't have one yourself, even if it's in a state, there's probably going to be some surprises that come up, and you might get beat up on price.
Well,
So it's still, in my mind, there's really not a good case not to have an inspection. I think as a seller, you should want to have an inspection to make sure that there isn't something ongoing, and you're going to want control of fixing that. Because if Uncle Jerry can fix it, have him fix it instead of hiring somebody who's going to charge you $150 an hour, right? So.
Well, the thing
anyway, so that's my advice there.
It seems to me, and I'm just sorry I'm babbling on here, but it just seems to me that the inspection makes total sense, because you want to be in the within 7 days on the market bucket, or worst case, the within 14 days on the market bucket. And if you're not getting an inspection ahead of time, you might be in the outside of 14 days on the market bucket, and you don't want to be in that bucket.
That's right. And then you're not getting full price, more than likely, because buyers at that point, most buyers agents are fairly savvy, and at that point we'll start asking for 2-1 buy downs for the buyers and stuff. So and rightly so. Yeah.
Right.
And they'll have an inspection contingency in there too. Oof.
Oof.
Oof. Oof. Anyway.
So bad things happens when you get out of that 14-day bucket. Bad things happen.
Bad things happen post 14 days. Yes. You don't want to be in that bucket. So, okay. So the other situation where a buyer would have an inspection would be if the seller did not provide an inspection, and the buyer made an offer, and they're the only game in town, right? So they're the only one making the offer, and they ask for an inspection contingency, at which point, after they got under contract, have a drink of water here. After you get under contract, then you go ahead and you have your inspection like in a normal market. So, there's, probably almost half the homes you would proceed that way. So you would submit an offer out on the market for more than 7 days with an inspection contingency. And then you would proceed to have the inspection, unless that seller was very responsible and did have an inspection before going on the market. So there are a few sellers that have done that didn't get under contract within the first 7 days, and so that's also nice to provide. But in that case, if you're still the only game in town, you could have your own inspection as well, if that makes you feel better.
Right.
So it's always a good idea to have your own inspection, just because it's a good way for the buyer to get to know the home, right? So. Otherwise, who's going to show you, the furnace filter, and, where the whole house water shutoff is located, the hot water tank, how old it is, because the inspector is going to go through all that stuff in person most of the time with the buyers. So, or document it in an inspection report. So just reading through a report, it's hard to do, especially for buyers, because this is not something they do every day. So it's really nice to have an inspector there. So if there are little things like he says, the railings on the back deck are not to code. Well, yeah, nobody's office was built before, 19 or 2015 or whatever, whenever they put in the new code for the railing heights, but it doesn't mean that it needs replacing. So, something like that could be mentioned in an inspection report, but it doesn't mean that it needs to be replaced. It just means that it's not up to current code. And that's okay, because houses that were built before today were going to be under different codes back then. So not everything needs to be updated to current code. Right. If you're going to build something today, you're going to build it to current code. So, but it's nice to be able to ask the inspector things like, is it common to have rodent droppings in the attic? Yeah. In Western Washington, you bet your bottom dollar, you bet your booty. It is very common to have rodent activity in the attics and both in the attics and crawl space, to be fair. And it's very common. It's not even somewhat common. It's very common. Like it's shocking to me when an attic or a crawl space, either one is clean. Like the inspector comes out, wow,
Just remind me not.
I'm like, really?
Remind me not to have this inspection conversation over lunch. I think I'd.
People like it when I talk rodents.
You go viral when you talk rodents.
I go viral when we do rodent conversations. Rodents and mold.
Yes. Rodents and mold.
People like that shit. Yeah. Well, the other thing, we'll talk about all the things we're looking for in an inspection, but those are the types of inspections that are available to buyers. So, or sellers. So you got the seller inspection prior to listing that they pay for and provide to buyers. Or if it's in a normal situation, the buyer is having their own inspection post making an offer. And again, with an inspection contingency, giving them an out if the inspection does not go well. Or 3, the pre-inspection that the seller has not provided an inspection on a listing and the buyer would like to have it inspected before making an offer. So that's your pre-inspection. That's your pre-inspection.
Right.
So for buyers. So the other thing I want to go into regarding inspections is I wanted to talk a little bit about, and I think I'm doing a quick little change here. You like my jacket?
Oh yeah, the blazer looks great. You're rocking it.
I think it's pretty cool. I like it.
Yeah, I do too.
All right, here, let me grab my little jean jacket. Just look a little more cash now.
That's
yeah, getting a little close to the camera. The TikTok folks are getting a little bit of a close up there. Oh, sorry, guys. That was a little much. I noticed that my left boob is taking up the whole screen.
And you were wondering about what gets you banned on TikTok. We're about to find out. But anyway.
No, I don't want to get banned. Oh my God. I forget about that. All right. So I want to go over today, and now that we've gone over the types of inspections that buyers and sellers can have, I wanted to go over today some of the things that inspectors are looking for when you purchase a home. So I thought it would be really, really useful so you would understand why you should really have an inspection. Because so many people waive them. It makes me crazy. I can't recommend waiving an inspection ever, unless you've got one provided to you from the seller. So don't do it, guys. Just don't do it. Okay. So some things that inspectors are looking for. Well, they're looking at the foundation and they're seeing if there's any cracks. So they kind of use your pinky finger as an indication as to whether it could be a problem. So a 1/4 inch or more is usually what they're looking for a crack, or if there's many cracks. But anyway, they're looking to make sure that everything looked like it was built appropriately and that the foundation is holding up.
So basically, what do they do for a 1/4 inch or more? They put their pinky finger into the crack and see if your finger goes in.
They're always gonna recommend that you fill those, that you seal it up.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but if they're greater than a 1/4 inch, then you start to think, well, the foundation is shifting. So the home could be settling in one area. I mean, I have a client in Grapeview, so Mason County.
Mason County. Oh,
we love Mason County. I have a couple clients in Mason County. I have one who lives on Mason Lake, and she's waterfront. She's got, I think, the biggest property there. And then I've got another one who lives oh gosh, I wish I could remember the name of the beach. I feel like it's Secret Beach or Hidden Beach or something like that. But she's in a community with a wonderful beach across the street from her where she can take her dogs for walks. It's amazing.
Oh, nice.
We picked that little place up for, I want to say, I think we got it for $320 or $325. And it's almost 2,000 square feet. And it's got full on water views.
Wow.
full on water views. It's really cool. But so this is the story though. So they built onto this little 2-story house, this really nice big family room, like ginormous, like a 450 square foot family room, right? Just really, really big with windows, big giant windows, right? Well, the foundation that was installed was insufficient to handle the weight of the room with the roof and stuff. Uh-oh. And so it's been settling. And so it's the floor has a significant slope to it. And so we got a guy out there, a foundation specialist out there after they purchased. We just went ahead and bought it as is. Yeah. And in that case, they didn't have an inspector because they're essentially flippers. So they're looking at things like they know they're probably going to have to replace electrical, and they do. It turns out, and plumbing, and they do. They have to fix that too. But they're going to live in this one for a couple of years till they find their permanent home out here. Cool. So, but the foundation it's going to cost them some money, but they're going to do the work, and they've got a guy. I tell you his name right now, but I can't think of it off the top of my head. But if you guys message me, I'll let you know who it is. But he will guide you through the process and get you through permitting with the county, and he can tell you how to do it and what to go by, and he'll help you get your foundation leveled. So that's what they're going to do. So they're having their sons fly out this summer, and they're going to get their foundation leveled. So they're pretty excited about that. They can't do anything else to the house until they get that foundation taken care of. They want to, they want to get new cabinets in the kitchen and new pretty quartz countertops, and they want to do the modern flooring, of course.
Speaking of modern flooring,
they really can't do any of that until they get the foundation.
I gotta tell our audience, who's got modern flooring?
Dan has modern flooring. He sent me a picture yesterday, and I'm like, that is modern flooring, Dan. You have it. By the way, I do too. Just saying. I got the Bruce Hydropel, and so it's waterproof because it's coated with a wax, so it makes it waterproof. So if you have pets that have urinary issues, like I had an older husky for a while, she would wet herself once in a while. So that was a non-issue with this flooring. It's amazing. It's absolutely amazing.
Sweet.
Yeah. And it's real wood. So it's real, it's engineered. So there's a thin layer of wood on top of, I don't know if it's plywood or what they use for the lower. It could be a composite. I'm not sure, but the top layer is wood. And so it's got natural wood grain. It looks beautiful. It's sort of a matte finish. So it doesn't show, it doesn't reflect light. And I don't like a lot of shiny on my floor, so it's just easy to keep clean. Doesn't show a bunch of stuff. It's just great. I love it. Anyway, and yours looks really nice too, Dan. Good,
Thank you.
Good neutral colors, right? So sometimes people screw it up a little bit by getting something that's too orange or too red. And in some homes that's totally appropriate. I'm not saying don't buy that, but in a lot of cases it's not. It's just a little too much. I think I've got you guys. I think I've been kind of cattywampus on you TikTok people over here. Sorry about that. I think I've been at an angle. Sorry. Anyway, so that's my most recent foundation story. So they're gonna take care of that.
Oh, cool.
Okay. So that's cracks in the foundation and foundation issues, right? So not just cracks, but does it look like it's a structural issue if it's not level? And a lot of older homes in Western Washington are post and pier foundation, which used to scare me. And you know what? I called R&R Foundation. That's another foundation guy that I really, really like in Seattle area. They're really amazing. And they have a great system of, jacks that you can adjust over time so that if the foundation does continue to settle, you can counteract that very easily, actually. And so with post and pier, it's an easy, when you need to replace a post, it's easy. It's not a concrete wraparound foundation. It's just a post on a pier that's sitting on the dirt, essentially. And so super easy if you need to jack that house up, just, support it. What do you call that? Shore up that beam. shore up that beam, and then you
Beam.
pull that post out of there and you replace it with a new post. So when I called R&R about, it was an investment property for my client. He was buying one down in Aberdeen, and it turned out it's post and pure foundation, and that there were some floors that were a little wonky. And so he thought, well, maybe sometime between tenants, I might want to level those up. So I had a conversation with R&R just over the phone. We were in the offer situation, and we were going through our inspection time period. And I said, hey, listen, you know what? So to R&R, you know, I got them to call, you know, they called me back, and I said, listen, you know, what does it look like if we need to replace 5 or 6 posts and a couple of beams, couple of joists?
Uh-huh.
And he just goes, 10. I was like, that's all I need. Thanks. You know, I just needed a ballpark. He was very hesitant. They don't like doing that. But, you know, and that accounts for a lot of situations. 10,000, you know, gives them a lot of leeway there.
Right.
And so I told my client. So we negotiated $10,000 off the price for the inspection. I love that. So, you know, I like getting my money. I love helping my buyers get a little better deal if it's justified. And it was completely justified. Because it wasn't just the foundation. There were other issues. Not a lot of big ones, but there were other things that, you know, probably should be repaired. Like the hot water tanks were old, really old. So those needed to be replaced.
Yeah.
And there were several other things. But anyway, so that's foundations, guys. So, you know, it's very important to have an inspection just for that, just for taking a look at the foundation. But if we're going to go down the list here, so the other thing they check on is the drainage of your gutters. And that's probably something you wouldn't even think about if you're walking around a house. But they want to see that the water that comes off the roof is directed away from your house, away from the crawl space. Otherwise, you might end up with areas of standing water in your crawl space, which can cause all kinds of havoc.
Yes.
from you know, wood destroying organisms, you know, getting in your crawl space, chewing on your beams and your rim joists and things. So to rodents and other things. So anyway, mold. Don't even get me started on mold.
And rodents.
Mold and rodents. So they also take a look at the roof, the condition of the roof, and the condition of the siding. And they'll give you a good estimate as to how long you have before you need to re-roof your home or repaint it. So that's really good information. You know, most of us, we don't have a clue, honestly. You know, sometimes I can ballpark it, but I'm not an expert. And, you know, we really should rely on an inspector for that kind of recommendation. So another thing, they check the windows to make sure, they make sure they were properly installed. So my rental house, the windows were installed upside down.
Well, that could be an issue.
So they could not be locked. If you install windows upside down, they can't be locked.
Good thing you have a good neighborhood.
This type of window. So I've had all the windows replaced in my rental house. So just saying. So, but they also check for the seals to see if the seals have failed. That's where the windows will get foggy between the panes.
Uh-huh. Yeah, you don't want that.
No, it's ugly. You don't want foggy seals on your windows, especially if they're view windows. Oh my goodness. So another thing they do is, gosh, I mean, inspectors are amazing. They go in the attic, you know, and they're looking to make sure that your bathroom fans, your exhaust hood over your stove are vented through the attic space, through the roof. And so whole house fans as well. And so a lot of times, and it's never intentional, but a lot of times the builders, that could almost happen to me when I was installing, I was remodeling my rental house a year and a half ago. And I went to put in an exhaust hood over the stove in the island, right? So there'd never been one there before. And so I installed, I couldn't get a guy to do it because all my contractors were too busy. So I was like, oh my God, so I'll just do it myself. So I installed my vent, my range, what do you call those? Hood vents, what are they called? Exhaust vents. I installed my kitchen exhaust vent over my over my stove in my island, and through the ceiling, right? And then they were redoing the roof, and I told them, I was standing out on the street, and I'm like, they were putting the plywood down on the roof over that section. And I said to the roofer, hey, Wade, don't let them forget to vent my, leave me a hole to tie into to vent through the roof. He's like, oh no, I got it. No problem. So I was like, okay. So when I left, then I come back the next day, the whole thing's been sheeted, right? And
no hole.
And there's no hole. So I'm like, okay, Wade, I can't hook my exhaust vent through the roof because there's no hole.
Well, what happened to no hole? No hole.
Back down. Actually, they had finished the job and he had to send somebody back over. And they're based out of Eastern Washington, so it was, But anyway, so yeah, so it's important to be cognizant, because you have different contractors doing different. You have different subs doing different portions of the home, and the builder says, "Hey, do it according to the specs here," and and maybe the city inspector, the county inspector, just misses it, right. When they're going through the house. So, because it does, I see it on homes 20, 30 years old. It's always been vented to the attic space, and no one's caught it. So, that's another reason why you really want to have the home inspected, because you don't want that moist air being kicked into your attic space. Right. Because that can cause all kinds of problems. And we could talk about mold again.
Yeah. Only if we can talk about rodents as well.
I love to talk about mold, Dan. So they're also, the inspector is also looking for mold, or let's call it organic growth. That's what they call it. It's actually mold, but they call it organic growth.
Organic growth.
So inspectors are looking for organic growth on the sheathing. So that's the underside of the paneling that goes on that covers the roof of your home underneath the shingles.
Right.
So, and sometimes that stuff gets wet when they're building the home, and sometimes there is a minor layer of organic growth on there that doesn't appear to be active. And in that case, it's not a problem. And they can usually tell if it's, if it's been an active situation or not. They also check to see how much insulation's up there. So, or if there's any roof leaks. If you can see daylight through the roof, that's big. You got problems.
That's bad, right?
I had a roof that you could see daylight through. It was a shingle roof. Man, that thing held up for so many years. But I'll tell you what, those last couple of years,
they're barely hanging on.
I never had a leak. I didn't have a leak with not with the roof. I had leaks with the boots, so I'd have those replaced a couple times. But I think I babysat that shake roof for 35 years. I loved my shake roof. It was beautiful. I've got a really steep pitch on my house, so that's what you see when you come down the driveway. You just see the roof. You're really looking at the roof. So the shakes were pretty.
Oh, sounds good.
Anyway, okay, we'll get off of that. Okay, so we're also in the attic. They're also making sure that there's adequate ventilation. So if there is organic growth, then they're going to start looking and taking a look at the ventilation system that has been installed on that roof, whether it's a ridge vent or if they're the individual vents that have been placed on and through the roof of the home, as well as the vents that come in underneath the eaves. So to make sure those are not blocked, right. With insulation. Right. So there's a lot of things inspectors do that in the attic. Let's see. So they're also going to look and see if there's any rodents. I know you love to talk about rodents, Dan. So I like to make sure that we don't miss the rodent topic when it's appropriate.
It goes very well with the organic growth.
Yes, that's right. Mold and rats.
Mold and rats. There we go.
Oh my God. Okay. So let's talk a little bit about the crawl space. So we love inspectors because they go in there and we don't have to. We don't want to go in the crawl space. None of us. It's not a fun place to be.
Because you might run into mold and rats.
They get all outfitted in their Tyvek suits, and they got headgear on and goggles. And they're terrified of these places.
Well, that mold, that could be trouble.
Yeah. Well, and they can run into critters. You know,
Yeah.
so I've heard stories about raccoons being down, in crawl spaces, and all. You see a set of eyes or a couple sets of eyes, and you're like, don't want to go in there. But anyway, so this is what they're looking for. They're looking for standing water. Standing water can be an issue because that can increase the humidity in the crawl space, which can then lead to organic growth. And you know what organic growth is, right? Mold.
Mold. You're
So
teaching me mold.
So
Mold and rodents.
So, and then, and they're looking also for evidence of past rodents. So rodents don't stay in one place very long. They have a litter and then they move on. Right. So you're almost always looking for past evidence of past rodent intrusion. So, feces and things like that. So, and a lot of times they also will interfere with the way the insulation is in the flooring. So, there'll be insulation. And if there's rodents, sometimes they'll get up in the insulation and pull it down and stuff. So it's really handy to have the inspector go down there so you don't have to do it. They also are going to be looking for plumbing leaks in the crawl space. That's a great place to find a plumbing leak because you can see it from down below, right, as opposed to trying to detect all that from above, right? So let's see what else. Oh, and another useful thing is they turn on all the burners and they turn the oven on. They make sure all the appliances are working properly, or at least they appear to be working properly. I don't know that they all start a wash machine and a dryer, but I know they check the rest of the appliances for the most part. And they're also making sure that the furnace is functioning properly. And if there's an air conditioning system, a heat pump, they'll also check that to make sure that's operating. So those are really good reasons to have a home inspected. I think that's the last one. That's the last one I wrote down for today, guys. So,
well, by the time you're done with that inspection, if you're not doing an inspection, I would think as a seller, it's pretty obvious from the stats that we put at, that you put together, that you got to get that house sold in the first 7 days. And worst case scenario, maybe it bleeds into day 8, 9, or 10. But if you're not ready to roll, don't put the house on the market. Get your house inspected. And I'm sure that's just too wide a rule of thumb, maybe. But it seems like you really need to get everything in order. Inspection, got to make sure you get every little thing. You got to get the important things fixed, all that kind of stuff. I know I'm talking about the obvious, but it does seem, sometimes folks will cut corners, and it sounds like a stupid move to cut corners.
Yeah, it is. And it could cost you. It can cost you a lot of money. Market times will reflect that. You start looking at the homes that sat on the market. They will oftentimes have to do some price reductions. And listen, if you're listing a house that's $1 million, your first price reduction, if you miss that mark,
yeah.
And you have to listen, your first price reduction is probably going to be $50K. I mean, 25,000 is pretty
That was the exact number I was thinking.
Yeah, because 25,000 is fairly insignificant on $1 million home. So don't miss the mark. And the other thing is always think about what price point are you closest to, right? So I really like to look at price points. And what I mean by price points are the big even numbers. So 500,000, 600,000, 700,000. 800,000, 900,000, $1 million, 1,100,000 kind of thing. And so what you want to do if your home is, just about to lose time. It's all, I kicked my tripod. Oh my gosh. Oops, now I'm out. Now I'm really all screwed up here. Let's see.
We're cattywampus.
We're definitely cattywampus. I'm not sure exactly what happened here. See if I go this way. That's a little better. Whoops. I've really screwed everything up here. Sorry, guys. Oh my gosh. This is crazy. Okay. So let's see. What was I going to say? So pricing, when you're pricing your home, so your realtor should be able to tell you this stuff, but I'm just going to kind of cue you in a little bit. If your house is the value is really close to, let's say, 890.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna recommend that we come in at 900. So, and the reason for that is because you're gonna catch the people that are looking from 800 to 900, you're going to catch the people that are looking from 900 to a million if they're looking in $100,000 increments. So
That's a good idea.
So on the other hand, so let's say you've got a house that's going to go on the market that you want to put on the market for $1,050,000. That's a tough one. Or it's really worth $1,025,000. So, do you go back down to that million? If it's super strong seller's market and you are the shiny object, if you are the shiny object, go ahead and come on at 1 million. Don't overshoot it and go to 1.1. Come on at 1 million and not $999,999.99. Don't do that. We are not selling hot dogs. Please make it an even number. Please. And that's price points, guys. And so why is that important? Is because you're going to get more people seeing you online, because the online sites, those search engines, they give people parameters. They'll give you like 600 to 650, or they'll give you they give you chunks of numbers to pick out of, right? So if you click on 600, and they're not going to give you 610. They're going to do 600, and you could maybe pick 650, 700. They're really in big chunks. And so you want to hit that price point on the head if you can,
Then you can get into two categories on the search engines, basically.
That's exactly right. You're going to hit the people that are on the lower end of that, and the people that are on the upper end of that. So you're going to hit both categories. So it gets you a lot more exposure. And, so it's a good idea. You just, I don't like to underprice homes. So it makes me a little queasy to, I think I listed one for $1,040,000 last year. And that made me a little queasy to list it at, or was it one? No, it was $1,050,000. Because we were clearly over $1 million. And this is the deal, though. The market had softened. We were seeing about 28% of homes getting under contract within the first 7 days or within the first 14 days. And it really had softened significantly last year. This was towards the fall, September, October in Woodinville. And so I think that's why we went ahead, and that's why I went ahead and just listed it at where I felt like it was priced. And then we ended up with an offer within 14 days. It was essentially right after 7 days. I don't think we even set an offer review date, because I don't think anybody was doing that then. The market had slowed down that significantly. Instead, we were watching how many price reductions there were. There were just enormous price reductions last fall. So, but that would be a case where if it's not a competitive, the flip side of this is if it's not a competitive market, you don't necessarily need to do that price point, hit that next biggest price point, because we really want that in a competitive market, in a seller's market, when you're trying to attract the most buyers, and hopefully you get a couple of offers submitted within the first 7 days. That's not an appropriate. That's not necessarily an appropriate way to price a property if it's not a competitive seller's market, or I always call it competitive seller's market. If it's not a seller's market, so then you would not necessarily choose that big price point.
Right.
So that's just if you're expecting multiple offers, then you might want to do that. It's really a good strategy, actually. It gets you a lot more exposure. I need some water. Okay. Hold on. Hold that thought. I got to go grab some water, because I'm all parched over here. I'll be right back. Mr. Fat Tuesday. What are you doing, little buddy? know you handsome. Oh, you handsome boy. Oh, you handsome. Oh, boy. All right, I'm on my way back here, guys. Here we go. I'm happier now. I get some water.
There we go. Okay.
What do you got for me, Dan?
What have I got for you, Kat? I got a lot for you today. Unbelievable. I'm holding up my end of the couch, as Bill Burr was saying.
Are you? That's
hardly, barely. But
uh-oh.
yes.
TikTok's getting another eyeful there.
Uh-oh.
I know. I gotta be careful.
Damn it, and I had my glasses off. Son of a bitch.
Son of a biscuit eater.
That's Alrighty, so
hair on my face here.
So here's the deal. Let's see if I can figure this out here. We gotta switch over to our other there we go, our other mode. So here's the deal. Normally, if I get somebody calling me up and asking me about, what are interest rates doing? I'm like, doing whatever they're doing, right? I don't really give it too much thought. But I've been getting a lot of calls on interest rates. So suddenly I had to start thinking about things. And here's the basic problem. Let me move on to this first slide, but I got a bunch of slides and I'll try to move through it real quickly. But I do want to answer the interest rate question, and then that's going to lead into the next topic.
My whole setup's going to blow over.
Uh-oh. Okay, ready? Here we go.
Good. Don't worry about me, Dan.
Okay.
I'll hold down the fort over here.
I'm hoping things stay together. I'm hoping. Okay, so I put together some charts, and I know the charts are kind of boring, but here's what's going on. Back in, I think the bottom of the market, or the high of the interest rate market, was back in October 21 of last year, right? That was the worst. And we had a nice little bounce back, and you can kind of see we're getting back towards, some terrible rates, just terrible. And let's move on to the next slide. But today wasn't so bad. We were up 8 basis points. No big deal. I got to tell you, between now, the big anxiety is going to come between now and roughly September 13th. Okay.
So we got anxiety going on between now and September 13th?
That's my opinion. Yes. I think people are going to be worried. Maybe it'll relent before then, but you've got the CPI report coming out on Thursday. It's today, the 8th of August. That'd be the 10th of August. But you've got the next CPI report coming out on the 13th of September. And then I think that's a Wednesday. And then the following week is the Fed meeting on the 19th and the 20th, I think.
And are they going to raise interest rates again?
I don't know. We're going to find out. I don't know. But we've got 2 CPI reports before the Fed meeting. And let me walk through why I can plausibly say I don't know. I don't have a clue. I have no idea. But let me walk you through it because it's not clear cut. So let's go through it real quick. So this is just a 10-year chart, and all this really shows is sort of the same thing I was just showing the last chart, except you can kind of see at the bottom, that bottom line moving up. It's a Fibonacci fan line. We're starting to see some waning of momentum is kind of what it shows, right? It's going great guns back in through October, and the momentum is kind of waned. Let's move on to the next chart.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I marked this up with my crayon online, and the first thing that you need to understand
is that like your regular handwriting?
Pretty much, yeah. Yes, yeah. I somehow passed 3rd grade with that handwriting.
It looks like scribbles. I wish you guys could see it. It does, but he has monthly and then annualized. They are spelled.
Yes, and so normally interest rates will follow inflation and the CPI numbers, but you can tell by this, inflation's been coming down. I mean, down. And what happened? Inflation's coming down. And by the way, the top chart, that's the month. They got a little circle down there by the number we're dropping off, I think, is July. this year, and that the comparison, the little circle I have is last year's July. So the comparison is going to be tough, and we're not going to have a good report. I mean, everyone's going to be saying, but inflation picked up. It's not really. It's just part of the process. But anyway, so that's why we're probably going to have some anxiety after Wednesday, because you'll have people coming out of the woodwork, economists, blah, 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 saying, inflation's getting worse. We need to continue to tighten, which is not necessarily the truth. So anyway, let's move on as quickly as I can. So I'm trying to figure out, something went wrong, right? Inflation keeps coming down, but interest rates went back up back in May, right? They start going up and up and up and up and up. And here we are at 7% mortgage rates. It's not good. And, where's this selling coming from, basically? Because you would think fundamentally you've got lower inflation, should be attractive to bonds, but I think you got two problems going on. And the first I'm focusing on is the regional banks, specifically. So regional banks, you go back to March, and you had three banks go out of business: the Silicon Valley Bank, and Signature Bank, and I think it was Republic Bank or something like that. Those three go out of business, right? They have a big blow up. Fed steps in, and basically they smooth things over. They create a new fund, and we'll get to those numbers in just a moment. But what's happening is you've got a lot of these regional banks that are commercial lenders, and you've got a big shift in our economy, which is two things. You've got interest rates that have gone for commercial lenders have gone from, let's just pick a number. Let's say 5 years ago, let's say it was sitting at 4.5% to 5%, and it moves to about 10% right now. If you're buying commercial property, it's somewhere in that neighborhood right now. So you've had a pretty much a doubling of interest rates. And then some of these office spaces, because people are working from home, are a lot less full, right? So their cap rates are going up. Not a good combination. So you've got Moody's that 2 days ago downgraded the regional banks, might have been yesterday. And they downgraded. So it
looks like are they worried about 11 more banks? That's what it looks like.
Yeah, they're worried about, 10 banks they're talking about with Moody's, but there's actually more than that, because they added, I didn't put it on this chart or on this slide, but they've added a lot of banks to like their watch list, right? So they had these 10 banks that they're talking about. We will not name names. I don't need to, I don't want to throw any of these banks under the bus. You can look at it. Look it up.
Don't want to cause a run on the banks.
No. They'll finger me for
I gotta go. Hold on, Dan. I gotta go get my doggy for a second. He's crying over there. I'm just gonna hold him.
Oh, sure.
So pause one. Don't hold that thought. I'll be right back. I gotta get Mr. Fat Tuesday. We gotta get Mr. Fat Tuesday out there. Come on,
Mr. Fat Tuesday chiming in.
Want to be on TikTok Live?
Mr. Fat Tuesday.
Over here and say hi to Dan. Here we go.
There we go.
This is how we roll.
This is how we roll.
This
Mr. Fat
is
Tuesday.
better.
He was giving a little bark.
This is Mr. Fat Tuesday, everybody. Hi. Yeah, you say hi to everybody. This is my little buddy.
So I do think this is where we're getting the problem with interest rates. Let me explain. It's the same problem we had back in March. A lot of the banks, the bonds that they would hold as assets aren't really very liquid, because if they sell them, they're in big trouble, right? Big trouble. Anyway, so let's move to the next chart. And that's why, this is the chart why I'm like, oh, that's the problem right there. So that's the aggregate Treasury futures net spectrum. That was an article from yesterday. And when you get to an extreme, right, it's like we got to be near the end, basically, when you get to this kind of extreme, right? And
Yeah, that looks pretty extreme.
pretty extreme. Yeah, that's pretty extreme, and that's the futures market. But basically, the sort of the train, if you will, of how things happen. That they'll hold banks will hold maybe their treasury holdings in cash, but then they might sell the futures ahead of time, right? And just kind of
Right.
hedge it up. So they still hold. They don't have to take the hit on their balance sheet, but they're selling the futures, right? And that's kind of what's been going on pretty clearly from that chart, right? Or that's sort of what's going on. So you've got a
Yeah.
lot of selling going on, massive amount of selling actually from somewhere, and my suspect is going to be the regional banks. That's my suspect, and
Yeah.
maybe some international sellings, but whoever's selling, they're doing a lot of it. And I do think that's why we've had this divergence, if you will, in the last 2-3 months from improving inflation, which should be good for interest rates. There's no question about it. Should be
Yeah.
good. Something happened on the way to the fair, so to speak, because while inflation's been coming down, markets are looking past that right now, and so I think there's liquidity issues, and that's kind of my conclusion. All right, next up. What did I put on this? Yeah, that's kind of boring. Not that the other one was particularly exciting.
Are you guys hanging in there on TikTok? I know you can't see Dan, so this has got to be kind of a bit of a push for you guys, but I appreciate you tuning in.
That's the sound of 10 million TikTok viewers clicking off. But anyway, simultaneously.
You think there's 10 million of them, Dan?
Possibly. I might be off by a little bit. Not much.
I'd be happy with 10.
That's because it's you. It's you. Yes, I'm sure you've got. Anyway, let's go to the. So back in March, I was talking about they set up this credit facility for the banks that are going, had problems, and all that kind of stuff. They need to figure out a way to get some liquidity back to the banks, and they set up this bank term funding program at the Fed. And you can kind of see that it's not getting any better. I mean, it's kind of flattened out. It's not that much worse, but it's still going over $100 billion a week. And that's a lot of bank borrowing going on from the Fed, right?
Oh.
So that's basically what's going on there. It's just not good. It's not exploding at this point, but it's not getting any better. So there you got that going for you. Next chart. Okay. The reason why I really don't think rates are going to go up much higher, which is probably the complete kiss of death and should bring a pretty good chuckle from Kat, because we talked about this before, but I don't think it's going to get much worse because, except for maybe the next 6 weeks, because basically it can't. This is a chart. This is, the federal government expenditures, their annualized interest payments. And you can see how in the last couple of years, they've shot straight up. Well, you can't maintain that, right? It's just not possible, right? So you've got annual interest payments that are closing in on $1 trillion of the government's budget. That's not sustainable. And so they're going to have to start rolling paper over and rolling debt over. They're not going to be able to keep this up at these levels. If they do, I don't want to think about it. But
well, myself, I feel like we got a couple of teenagers, running the Fed right now.
Yeah.
But I've been saying that for the last year. I just feel like it was a knee-jerk reaction, and you can't fix years of failed policy with shooting interest rates up more than double in less than 6 months. I mean, you can't. I mean, talk about a roller coaster. I mean, let's just talk about how it's impacted real estate over the past year, Dan. I mean, literally, we shot up in the spring because we had 3% interest rates, right? Last spring. This is just the last year and a half, right? So last January through April, prices shot up. Then interest rates went up to 4%, and things started to slow down a little bit. So, by June, this hitting 5 and then 6 by July. Now we have the market that was going up like this to start doing this. Like it was just a constant decline the second half of last year, with every week getting worse. The data looked worse and worse and worse. And in the spring, it looked better, better, better until about April and May, and into maybe the first week of May, and things started slowing down. But it was still a really strong seller's market until you hit about June, and things
Right.
just really started. The bottom started falling out, and we lost what 25% of home values the last half of last year.
Last year,
And
yeah.
now what's happening now? Now we have higher interest rates yet, and we've seen this increase again this spring of another 21%, which is just, it's mind blowing. We have this wild swings in real estate going on because of the monetary policy. Because now they're continuing to raise interest rates, which is going to put a lot more downward pressure on the market this summer.
Yeah,
Which, to be fair, we don't have enough inventory, but it's creating havoc.
it is.
And that's just real estate, the real estate sector, you know. And so what has really been impacted are you can't move locally. So you have all these sellers that are now locked into their 3% interest rate. They can't afford to move. They can't they can't go buy the 4-bedroom home. They got a third kid on the way, and they're living in a 3-bedroom, 2-bath home, and they can't afford. They've lived there for 5 years. They've got a little bit of equity, but not enough to make up for the increase of price. The increase in price for one thing, but that 7% interest rate. Holy cow! What does a young family do? So that's how it's impacted real estate. I'm not even just talking about the wild swings in pricing, but I'm also talking about the available inventory. So normally you've got a lot more inventory because you have local moves going on. Yep. So, how is this going to impact our industry? Let me tell you, this is where it gets serious. You're going to have a lot less real estate agents, which that's a lot of brokers going out of business, a ton of them. I mean, I'm lucky. I've been doing this for a while, and I've been in the business long enough that I'll be fine. I'm going to be fine, along with a handful of other agents in my office. The rest of them are going to really have a tough year. Yeah. But it's not just agents. It's not just brokers. It's also the mortgage lenders, the banks that are, that support us in getting our mortgages taken care of for our buyers. It's also the title people. So, and we've got mortgage brokers that they're losing their back end staff. So having to do everything for the loan, nearly everything themselves. They don't have help. And so when a problem arises in a loan, sometimes it can take a few days to get it done because they just don't have that support staff anymore. So, but then you've got escrow people. So there's going to be less business for escrow. If business is down almost 50%, you're going to lose a lot. We're going to have a lot of unemployed people related to the real estate industry. And it isn't just about us, but I'm just talking about that one sector that I can see myself with my own eyes and that I'm experiencing. So, if there's going to be some real fallout from what the government has done with interest rates. And I'm not saying it hasn't been necessary. I don't know. I'm not an economist. I'm not an educated economist. I've taken a basic, economics 101 in college. I enjoyed it thoroughly, but I certainly am not in a position to say whether what they're doing is right or not. But it does beg the question as to what is the fallout going to be, because there is going to be fallout. There's already been fallout. There's going to be more fallout.
I'm getting to the fallout. I am.
Okay, good. Let's hear it.
Let's get to it.
I just had to interject my own 2 cents so people don't get, they're going to get bored, Dan. They can't see your face.
Thank God. So let's. So anyway, so I've got this little cumulative receipts, the government deficit stuff, and let's move past that here real quick.
Okay.
Anyway, make sure just to hit that real quick. Government deficit this year is running around 1.39 trillion. That's a big deficit for something, when the economy is supposed to be going good. That's a big number, and that's what's happened in the last 2 or 3 weeks when rates start moving up again. It's because the government was coming in and they're talking about instead of doing 700, and I can't remember the exact number, it's like 740 billion in in auctions upcoming on their auction schedule, they bumped it up to like $1 trillion, right? And all of a sudden rates start going up because you have to absorb all that extra paper in the market. It's an issue, all that stuff is now becoming what really wasn't much of an issue before is now an issue. It's been exposed because the Fed's not buying all this stuff anymore. They're relying on the market to do all that. So now all this stuff is kind of coming out of the woodwork, right? It's a problem. So let's move on to the next slide real quick. So here is, this fella that's on the screen, sorry, TikTok viewers, you can't watch this, but this fella's name is Muhammad Al-Arian. And he used to hang his shingle over at the PIMCO, Pacific Investment Management Company. It was founded by Bill Gross. And at one point, they were the biggest bond trading asset manager in the world, right? They were big. And this guy was number 2 to Bill Gross. Smart guy, real smart guy. And I think what he's saying is absolutely correct. He says, Muhammad the headline for you TikTok viewers says surveillance. Al-Arian says Fed inflation target should be closer to 3%. That is a big deal. Nobody's going to think of it as a big deal. It's a huge deal, right? Yeah. And so because what it does is
that impacts monetary policy. If you adjust that, you adjust your expectation. Yeah.
It allows for more inflation. Okay. So if you can go from a 2% target to a 3% target on inflation, you're going to have more inflation. There's no question. Okay. So how does that impact real estate? And if you go back to the 1978 to 1983 model, where we had a lot of inflation, what happened during that period of time? Well, it was not good for equities. It was not good for stocks, but it was relatively much better for the real estate market, right? And why would it be better for the real estate market? Because you own a hard asset. If you're an investor, investment properties, you can raise rents. You can sort of track rents with inflation. And it's an asset class that will go very comfortably with higher inflation numbers, right? So I think that's one thing you're probably going to see over the next 5 years is more money moving from, say, equities into real estate as an investment. Now that's if history repeats itself, but we're going back a long ways, over 40 years, 45 years to that 78 to 82, 83 period. But that's what happened back then.
Is it that long ago, Dan?
Yes, I remember it very well. Yes.
So do I.
Now, I don't know if this is a blessing or a curse. So, but that's what happened, right? I mean, apartment buildings do very well. If you can track, like if you're an investor and you can buy an apartment complex or something like that, that is one way to offset some of this inflation, because you're going to pass along your higher inflation is going to get passed off to the new renters. Your renters are paying for it. Their renters are paying for it. You're not paying for it, and you've got the same level on your mortgage payment. It's actually kind of a sweet deal if you own investment property, right? So the next, so that leads me. Okay, so that's the blank slide. And then that leads me into investment properties. And a real quick idea, just a quick idea to throw out there is a debt service.
Talk about Camino Island, Dan?
Well, we are. Yes.
Oh, yay. Let's talk Camino.
We're going to talk Camino. So first off, we're going to talk about a deal. This is just an example. You
know what we need to do, Dan? We need to get Dave and Lisa into house.
Yes, we're working on it. My squirrels are on the wheel. They're running. The little hamsters are running. They're working.
Camino Island, folks, if you got a house, you're going to put it on the market, and it's, 1,500 to 2,500 square feet, and it's a Rambler or a Daylight Rambler. Call me. Because I have a buyer. They got to get into something, guys. Their lease runs out in December.
Yeah.
Anyway.
So let's move. So first off, debt service coverage ratio is only for investment properties. Okay, that's one of the criteria.
Debt service coverage ratio. So that's DSCR loans, and those are for investment purposes.
For investment purposes, that's right. And to be honest, it is one of the easiest loans you can probably do, right? It sounds fancy and complicated. It's not fancy and complicated at all, right? Easy, easy peasy. So what they do is they simply take the monthly rent, all right? They add up the prince. I had to go back here to the previous slide and read what it says. You got your principal, interest, taxes, insurance, and potential association fees, right? So you're basically taking your mortgage payment and dividing it by the rent. That's it. It's pretty simple, right? Actually, you're taking the rent and divided by the mortgage payment.
The rent divided by the mortgage payment. Okay.
Yeah. So we took this actual property that's available
it's available now on Camino Island.
Available now on Camino Island.
7.25. There's 2 separate houses on it, and it's listed for $725.
Yes.
Yeah. And there's 2 bedrooms, 2 primary bedrooms, or 2 primary bedrooms in the 2-bedroom, 2-bath house, and it has an attached 2-car garage. And then the other home is 3 bedrooms, 1 bath, if I understand that right. I looked at the floor plans, and it also has a 2-car attached garage. And they have a sweeping view to the west on Camino Island. So it is quite a lovely setting. So we're trying to figure out, because they've been dropping price. They started right around $850. Been on the market 120 something days, I think 130 days, something like that. And I've been trying to, they've been dropping price regularly. So they're, being smart about it. And now they're down to 7.25. And I'm like, at some point, this thing's got a pencil. So they're getting $4,200, according to the listing. It says they're getting $4,200 a month from both homes, and they're little ramblers. So, and they're dated 1990s on the interiors, but they totally look livable. So according to the pictures, I guess they're rented right now. So that's the backstory on those. So
it's 4 acres too. It's sitting on 4 acres.
Yeah, it's 4 acres, and it looks like it's fairly cleared. And so you're not looking through trees at the water. You're actually got sweeping views of the water, looking towards I think Whidbey Island over there.
I mean, you look at that bottom picture, and
it's gorgeous.
You can set up like a soccer field or something like that on there.
It's
big chunk of land.
A bunch of cleared land. Yeah, it's just beautiful.
So that property. So I ran a scenario just for the heck of it, right?
Yeah.
So we took a look at the actual property. Okay, it's 42. I made a mistake there. Sorry about that. But anyway, it is what it is. So let's pretend that the income was $4,500 a month, right? Maybe you got to raise your rents a little bit, but not too much. Let's just say. Well,
I have to believe. I almost feel like they might be underpriced rental wise with those kind of views and the 2-car attached garage. I kind of feel like they should probably be getting a little bit more than that. And you could certainly, after you purchased it, you could certainly flip one of them into an Airbnb situation where you could even rent to. I'm not sure that traveling nurses would go out to Camino, but it might be worth it with a view like that.
But you never know. That's right.
But you can always do just Airbnb those things and have Vacasa or somebody manage those for you. But and you purchase it as though it's a rental right now, because Airbnbs are a little bit more interesting to try to finance.
Yes. Well,
we'll talk about that on another video.
Another one, because we do have Airbnb lenders, by the way. And maybe another live stream would be the barndominiums, but that would be for Texas. But anyway, let's move through this real quick.
Let's go through this scenario. I want to see this. So
this scenario, so you get your rental income. Let's just say it's $4,500 a month. Purchase price is $725. You're gonna put in this situation. Let me do the math. About $250,000 down. Okay, and your interest rate is, to be honest, is really reasonable. In this scenario, you're looking at a 7.5% interest rate.
Okay, so that's $250,000 down.
That's for $250,000 down. Yeah.
All right.
And your payment is going to come out with taxes and insurance and all that kind of stuff. I was kind of making some estimates, but we're not too far off. Your total payments would be $38.95 a month. If your income is $4,500 a month, all of a sudden you're sitting there and you're cash flowing, and the nice thing about this DSCR loan, and let me get to some of its features, okay, um, is that you don't have to have a signed lease going into it. Let's say you've got a couple.
Oh, you don't need a signed lease when you get into it?
Mm-mm.
Oh, yeah. Oh, I see it. They do a rental.
An
They
income
figure out what
analysis
the rents would be.
on the appraisal. Yeah. So
Yeah.
the other nice part of this particular loan, and by the way, I added it up. It might, it could change a little bit, but we have like 63 lenders that are doing these DSCR loans, right? So lenders are doing whatever they can do to generate business, right? Wholesale mortgage, they're the biggest in the industry on the wholesale side. They just came out with a whole bunch of programs that they call non-QM, right? So they're like infringing on the little fellas and they're stepping on their toes. Well, it's because, business is down, right? It's truth. So anyway, the first part of this, you don't have to have leases, and
Uh-huh.
you don't have to have your income verified. So let's say you're
Oh, so there's
retired.
so this is a no income type of loan.
It's a no
So, and you
income
don't
type.
have to have leases. That's the amazing part to me because, like with Michelle, my daughter's buying a triplex right now. We've got one of the units is not rented out. And then we've got two that are, and then one of the other tenants is not paying. But we anticipate they are going to pay and they'll make up for the back that they owe as well. They routinely will put big chunks of money towards their rent and live there for months and months and months. And then they're funded by a local organization. So that gets together only occasionally. So sometimes she'll be late for so anyway, but the point is that you can't show the rental income, so it could get challenging. It could have gotten challenging.
Could have gotten challenged. It wasn't,
Yeah.
but it could have
Yeah.
gotten, right?
Right. Yeah. But
the nice
that's a
thing-
situation where, if you didn't have any of the units rented, or like if people moved out of both of these little homes, then you could still estimate what the potential rental income would be on it.
Right.
And move forward with your loan.
A decent scenario, okay, reasonable scenario. Let's just say you're a doctor, right? And you've got a nice portfolio of stocks and bonds put together, but now you see the markets are changing. You want to diversify a little bit into stuff like real estate, right? Rental property.
Yeah.
And I say a doctor, but let's say you're retired. You're a retired doctor, and you want a venue on how to, because if you're retired and you're trying to go through Fannie Mae or Freddie Mac, it's going to be, how are you going to do it? Because you're on retirement income versus your big time income, right?
Right.
Well,
yep.
This is the way you could do it. You don't have any limitations as far as how many properties you have to own, at least with most of these lenders. You don't have any limitations as far as your income is concerned.
What are the fees? What are the fees looking like?
Normal.
Oh, so nothing really, that outrageous?
No.
Is it normally like a tad higher interest rate? Because 7.5, I got to tell you, 7.5 interest rate for investment property sounds like an incredible deal. It does right now, right? Because that's almost like as if you were going to move into it and buy it as your primary residence.
Yeah, I think when I ran it through the pricing engine today, 7.5 is what came up on this. Now, this is the best DSCR loan that this company offers, by the way. I'm not advertising the worst rates. I'm advertising the best.
Oh, you're not advertising the worst rates, Dad?
No.
You're cherry picking and you're going for the cheapest rate?
Yes.
Imagine that. To me, that sounds fair.
Yeah. But, it wasn't unreasonable, right? Those numbers were not unreasonable at all. And if you're at a retirement age or you're near retirement age and you need to shift some assets around, this is the way to do it. This is the type of loan you do. You don't have to verify your income. You don't have to verify rents. It's easy peasy. And then the rates are good. They really are for the best.
7.5. When I was, I feel like some of the loans were like 8.5.
9. I mean, you'll have
Yeah,
some scenario. Yeah,
for rental properties, for investment properties. So that
yeah.
actually sounds like a really good rate. Is
Well,
that's probably partly because you put $250,000 down on that, right? So that's like a third. You're putting a third down.
well,
30,
here's the deal with
30%.
these DSCR loans. Okay, it's not necessarily the down payment that, like, from a 25% down standpoint. Yeah, you do have to get 25% down, but
Yeah.
even 30%. But it's more, the down payment is more to affect the ratio, because you have a numerator and a denominator, right? So you got to bring, with higher interest rates, you got to bring that, whatever it would be, denominator or numerator, which you got to bring that down. It's the
Yeah.
denominator. You got to bring that down. So it fits. But that's basically the only reason you'd have a higher down payment, is to make that fit, right? To make it fit into. So they have different
That
buckets.
ratio, the way you're dividing the rent divided by, or the mortgage payment divided by the rent, is that right? Or is it the rent
Yeah.
divided by the mortgage payment?
Well, we can go back a few slides, but
Yeah. Is it, so
it's the rents divided by the more DSU. You get the DSU. So you get the rents divided by the mortgage payment. So your rents are
so
going
it's
to be
the
higher
rent
than the
divided
mortgage
by
payment.
the mortgage payment, and so what you want is, you want that number to be greater than 1. What do you want that number to be?
Well, here's the thing, and this is why this loan's a little bit different than normal loans. Okay, is that you've got a million different scenarios. Okay, with
Yeah.
how much
Yeah.
money do people want to put down, and there's just a million different scenarios. And so what you have to kind of do is, there's a little bit of back and forth, and you might have to shop a couple different lenders, right? Because
Right.
some lenders are stronger with worse DSCR ratios, and some are really shining when it comes to really strong DSCR ratios, right? So I mean, it's just, you got 63 lenders out there. Some of them are better than others at certain things, right? So you kind of have to, the first few days that you're going through the application process, you just have to kind of tamp all that down and figure out who's going to, where you're going to go. But from a hypothetical standpoint, or whatever theoretical standpoint, real world standpoint, these were very, very popular loans about 2 years ago when the rates were really low, because you could see from the math, if rates are really low, your mortgage payments are really low, right? And so
Right.
what's happened is, rates have gone up, mortgage payments have gone up, DSCR ratios have gone down. So in order to get that back into line, you have to come up with more down payment. It is what it is, right?
Right.
But the other side of that coin is, let's say you put that big down payment down, your DSCR ratios in line, and then we hit.
But that's money making. That's a money making property. If you, and I feel like it would still be positive cash flow, even if you only did the 20% down.
Right, and we would look at different
Still
programs.
cash flow. So I mean, I was doing my calculations based on 700, assuming the seller would take $25,000 less than what they're asking right now.
Right. Well, and that's possible.
And then you'd get an inspection contingency too. I mean, at this point, I feel like that property looks like a fairly good value. I mean, with the sweeping westerly water views, the only thing I don't know is if there's laundry in the 2-bedroom, 2-bath home.
Well, the thing is, from an investment standpoint, you still have 4 acres.
You're getting a view piece of land, 4 acres with amazing sweeping water views. They're asking 7.25. So, I mean, my thought was maybe my clients, buy the one, or buy them both, right? Move into one and wait for their dream home to come on the market. In the meantime, a little bit of mortgage they would have would be covered by the other rental house. So they would be put in a fair amount of cash down because they have it from selling their other house. So they could essentially live there with no payment, because the other house would cover their mortgage.
They could, hypothetically, but not with a DSCR loan. They couldn't do it with the DSCR loan.
Oh, so DSCR, you can't use that on your primary residence?
No, it's an investment property. There's a couple of caveats in there. It has to be an investment property.
It's good that I mentioned that, so we can get that out of you.
Yes, we can. Yes. So they can't live on the property. It's a purely investment property.
Purely for investment. Gotcha.
For almost all, not all, but most of these lenders, they want you to be living in a home that is more expensive than the house that you're buying. So those are the two big caveats. So, but it's a very cool loan. A lease is not required. They simply do an appraisal, rental, and income analysis of the property. And I'll just run through this here. It's you've got the 1007, which is a Fannie Mae single family comparable rent schedule. They'll run that, and they will run the Fannie Mae 1025, which is a small residential income property appraisal report. That's a mouthful. So those are the two basic appraisal forms, and they're going to base the income on that, right? So it's really sweet to get into, right?
That's really interesting because there's no income qualification on there.
No income qualification.
I love that. It's just like the When We Are Ready program doesn't have an income qualification either. So it just makes applying for that loan easier.
And it makes so if you're asset rich, but your income has gone down because you're getting older and you're not working as much and all that kind of stuff, this is something to take a look at. It really is.
So DSCR loans. So for you my TikTok viewers out there, we're talking with Dan Mellis with Nexa Mortgage, and we're talking about purchasing like investment properties and what type of loans are available for those. And DSCR loans are no income qualifying loans. So you can literally, you don't even have to have a lease signed. So you can, they'll do, what is it called when they'll do like take a pulse of what other people are getting for rent in the area to determine how much it should be rented for as part of the appraisal process, and to determine what those rents will probably be.
Yes.
So
you can see
no income qualifying, and you do have to put at least usually 25% down on those, but that's what we're talking about right now. You also cannot live in the property. So at that point you'd be buying one of the, if you were going to buy two houses like this example property on Camino Island, on the west side of Camino Island that has the sweeping water views, one of the thoughts was for my clients is they could buy that property, move into one of the homes, waiting for their ideal home to come on the market, because we've been watching for quite a while and there just is no stinking inventory. So out of frustration, I posed that question, but that will not work with a DSCR loan. At that point, you would be buying it as a primary residence with an ADU.
That's correct.
So conventional more conventional financing
more conventional approach. That's right. And I read I put into red the two little caveats. You got to own your own home, and the lenders like to see that the value of the home that you actually live in exceeds the value of the subject property. Right.
Oh, so for DSCR loans.
For DSCR loans, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So they don't want you going out and buying apartment buildings with a DSCR loan.
There are type of this is really basically created for.
Am I stumping the lender?
Yeah, a little bit, but not really. I'm just not spitting my words out. I'm just.
So, but there would be for apartment buildings, that's a whole different thing. That would be more commercial type lending, right?
Yeah, it's different, and this is sort of a quasi commercial. The structure of this is very commercial.
It's based on the potential income, based on potential rents.
That's right.
Either actual or potential.
That's correct. And you can see in the fine print at the very bottom, I put in there, borrowers are required to sign an occupancy certificate. So that
saying that you are not going to occupy the property.
You're not going to occupy the property. Yeah, you're on record. Okay.
But can you use it for? Could you turn it around and use it for Airbnb after you purchase it with a DSCR loan, and then use your own Airbnb, or is that breaking some kind of ground rules?
Yeah, it depends on the lender, to be honest with you. So when the lenders need, or when a loan officer like myself is posed that question, right? We'll say something to the effect of lender by lender, something like, if you ever heard lender by lender, then they've got to look something up, right? So That's a lender by lender situation.
There's not really a good answer for that right now, Kat.
Well, other than we do have Airbnb loans, and so the lenders on the
Yeah.
Airbnb loans are typically the same lenders that are doing DSCR loans, right?
Yeah.
So if one doesn't fit, the other will.
Okay.
But
So I want to get into Airbnb loans with you next week.
Okay.
I definitely want to cover that topic.
Okay.
Because I have several clients that are interested in getting into the market to purchase an Airbnb or something they can use for an Airbnb. With the whole traveling nurses around this area, there's a lot of need for longer term Airbnbs, 3 months. I'm suggesting 3 months for leases. And that way you're not cleaning them, every weekend or every week or every 2 weeks.
We'll do that. We'll do that next week. We will.
Yeah, and maybe I can even come up with some examples of some potential properties that would be desirable for an Airbnb situation. So some of the things that you might think about when you're thinking about buying an Airbnb, you think about your target rental market. So like if you wanted to target traveling nurses, you could focus on areas where there are hospitals or care facilities that utilize traveling nurses. So it'd be interesting to see if Swedish or Providence, if they utilize the traveling nurses program at all, and they need temporary help on occasion. So that's one thing to think about. The other thing you can think about when you're thinking about purchasing a property to utilize as an Airbnb is location as it relates to destinations. So Camino Island, for instance, could be a destination. A lot of people go there to vacation. So especially a property with water views can be really enticing to purchase and pick up and utilize as an Airbnb. The thing that you always want to check on is you want to make sure that community allows for Airbnbs. So, because a lot of times you have to license them with the local city or the county or the municipality. And there are some rules and regulations. Like there's an area in Woodinville, it's the Woodinville Wine District over there where they've got new construction going in right now. And they are not allowing rentals for any less than, I think it was 30 days. So if somebody wants to do a longer than 30-day rental, they have that option, but they can't use it to Airbnb because Woodinville's become quite the destination for wineries and breweries. And so Woodinville is anticipating a large number of people. It's going to be quite a big draw, I believe. Yeah. And the whole downtown Woodinville's being all redeveloped. So within five years, there's going to be a huge hotel I think it's called the Bon. Or the Bomb. No, I can't remember. Was it? I can't remember. Shoot. But it's like, it's one word. It's going to be a fabulous hotel, and they've got, lots of, so I can't remember how many rooms either, but it was going to be pretty big, very sophisticated with some 5-star, 4-star restaurants and things like that. But anyway, that's off the topic. But so you think about what, who's going to be your clientele. So, Edmonds, for instance, people like to travel to Edmonds, down there close to the marina. And so that could be something that if it does have a potential view or a little bit of a view, or it's close to downtown, extremely attractive for Airbnb. Edmonds now, you might want to check with the city of Edmonds. I volunteered that, but I don't know for sure they allow it. So I spoke out of turn there. But as far as destinations go, that would be a good local destination that, people like to go there, walk around downtown and shop and take the walk along the water down there, eat at Anthony's,
Right. Hey, Kat, real quick.
Yeah.
I'm gonna end the broadcast real quick.
Okay.
And then hang on with me after I end it. Okay.
Okay. I'm gonna say goodbye to you guys too. Bye, TikTokers. Hey, thank you guys so much for joining us today. We went really long today, but plan on tuning back in next week. We usually wind up filming we always plan on 2, and it's just I take forever to get set up. I don't know what the problem is. It takes me
that's all right. It's worth the wait.
and then I finally get set up, and it's like now it's like 4:30. I mean, it's kind of ridiculous. So I'm gonna get better at this. But
Well,
anyway, thanks for
I'm
joining. See you guys later. All right, now I
goodbye.
figure out.
Hang on for a second, Kat. Hang on.
Okay.